Hello everybody, welcome back. I've got yet another Sprong video here. Obviously we're playing Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I just wanted to do the play-by-play here real quick of this fight. Finally managed to do this without any mistakes. The first turn is sort of unique for Lune. She has to use an Ice Lance there. Just with all of the energizing start abilities, she just doesn't quite have enough to use a Tsunami first, so we need to use an Ice Lance, and then obviously the second turn will be Stormcaller. Basically, Mael here is kind of doing the same thing. It's basically just Sword Ballet the entire time, aside from there's a couple of turns where she doesn't have enough AP, and so I have to use like an offensive switch, I think it was. This is a little bit different from my first Sprong kill because I think my characters are just a little bit higher level, and the stats have been tweaked just a little bit. I do go through that at the second half of the video because I do the whole, I do the whole build. So if you want to stick around and see that, definitely do that. But Verso is literally just using Steeled Strike the entire time. That's the benefit of having all of the energizing starts, obviously, and then Sprong fills up my AP completely that first turn. So he's good to go. Once he gets rolling on that, then he's like I said, he's doing doing just Steeled Strike the entire time. But anyways, like I said, so Lune starts with Ice Lance, and then the second turn is Stormcaller, and then the third turn is just Elemental Genesis. Now, there, if you notice, I didn't have enough AP to do Sword Ballet with Mael, and I think that's just because she's a little bit too quick this time around. And so she's not getting, the counterattacks that I had been with my first kill for him. So she has to use an offensive switch, though. That's all right. That actually does provide a debuff that increases the damage very, very slightly on the Stormcaller strikes, right? So the little lightning strikes that happen, the little bit of extra damage that you get out of that is actually affected by that defenseless buff, which is kind of neat. I don't know how much sense that makes, but it is what it is. But anyways, yeah, getting into the still phase 1. So phase 1 is basically 75% health and above. Stage 2 or phase 2 is once you drop him down below 75%, he'll switch up his attacks just a little bit. We'll kind of see that here in a little bit. This is phase 3 where he does the 4. It starts out as a 4-hit combo, and then it progresses to 5, and then of course I think it's 7 for the final phase. Here, yep, just doing another Elemental Genesis. So basically, Lune's got the most complicated of these characters. Obviously, Verso's the easiest, right? He's just using Steeled Strike the entire time. I think Mael is just using Sword Ballet, and then every once in a while I have to use that offensive switch. And then, like I said, Lune's got the most complicated. So her first start is the Ice Lance, and then it's Stormcaller. Then Elemental Genesis, and then I'm kind of just, it's actually kind of just depending on where Verso is at. So ideally you want to be lining up Stormcaller with the second part of his Steeled Strike, right? So when he actually does the damage. So there I'm activating it. Well, I'll just kind of go over what I mean. Here's the big punch he had here. I look like I'm just dropping him below 75% now. So it looks like that was like perfect timing, right? He does the final attack there of phase 1 there with just the, well, I guess it's his stage 1, right? That's the big where he pounds the ground there in front of us. Here's the lasers, and like I said, yeah, he's definitely below 75% now, so he's into phase 2. Which is going to mean this phase 3 is a little bit changing. But there, if you notice there, Lune did Stormcaller right before Verso got the damage portion of his Steeled Strike. And again, that's kind of how you want to line it up. It doesn't always work out perfectly, right? Because she needs to do other things. Specifically, her third turn is always going to be Elemental Genesis, or I should say her every third turn is the Elemental Genesis. And also that's because of the weapon that I chose to use for this one. This is a very specific playthrough where I'm trying to go through with without actually upgrading anyone's weapons, because I'm just trying to figure out where all the free upgrades are at. So it did extend this fight out a little bit longer than I probably needed it to, but again, I just didn't upgrade anybody's weapons aside from those freebies. So anyways, here's the stage 5. That's the extermination beam. Very, very easy. Love that stage. Well, I mean, I like stage 4 a little bit more, but stage 5 is pretty good too. Same with stage 1. Stage 1 is probably my favorite, right? Just the easiest of the abilities to parry, but stage 2 by far the worst. So here, here he's into the double slam for stage 1, right? And then that'll turn into 3 later on. Another sword ballet. Alright, so let's see here. I must have used a... oh yeah, and so with Lune's weapon, and again, I go over this a little bit later on in the build, but Lune's weapon is actually going to apply slow anytime she consumes a light stain. So that's kind of keeping him, slowed down a little bit, making it so that we kind of don't have to parry quite as much. I do wonder though, especially now that I've done this a few times, I don't know that that's, well, I should say, I don't think that that's the best weapon for this, because the problem is that's great, right, if you can keep him slowed down, but honestly, I think that the leveled up Kralum is just a little bit faster, right? I think she can just pump out, a bit more damage, and so I don't think you really need to have him slowed, because it's basically every second turn actually that she's able to use Elemental Genesis, which again, it makes it so that she's pumping out so much more damage that it just kind of, reduces the duration of the fight, assuming that you've got it leveled up enough. Alright, so here's Extermination Boom again. Looking like we're right around the 50% mark. And I should say, I don't exactly know where Phase 3 starts, because it's definitely not below 25%. I think it's right around 33% actually. That's when he hits his final phase, which is a little bit weird, right? It feels a little bit weird that that's the cutoff for that phase, but again, it's definitely not 25%, because he'll use his I think it's 6 lasers for stage 2. Again, well above the 25% mark. So my thought is probably 33%. That kind of seems appropriate for the game being Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33. Also, they like to kind of sneak in the 33s wherever they can, I feel like. So that's my theory anyway. I don't know if that's exactly the case, but anyways, alright, so here's the 5-hit combo. Again, that's just the stage 3 above the 33%. That'll drop, or that'll change the 7-hit. Again, I would argue, I think it's below 33%. But, using a tsunami there to get our elemental stains. And I should say that tsunami is the better of the skills to use, just because for one thing it's stronger, but also it requires 3 stains to power it up, which means that you're never going to have to worry about eating up stains and then not being able to use an Elemental Genesis. Which again is, by far her strongest ability for this point. Which again is why I like to do that. And then also on top of that, you actually can use the Ice Lance first turn and then Stormcaller after, but you can't do it in reverse. You can't do a Stormcaller first because Ice Lance will eat up that light stain if you do it that way. So that's why that's only a turn 1 deal, right? And then beyond turn 1, I'm not using Ice Lance at all. Alright, so we're really close here, I feel like, to the final phase. Let's just see, I'm lost track of where we're at in terms of his attacks. Alright, using a Stormcaller there because I knew... Okay, alright, so here's the Sabotage, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah, this is definitely final phase. And you can see there, like I said, this is definitely over 25% health. Like there's no question about that, right? All right. Well, so now that we're prepared for Oblivion, Sprong launches the 7-hit combo. Pretty easy to parry. I think that you know, if we're going stage by stage, 1 is probably the easiest. If we're not going to count 4 though, right? Because he doesn't do anything for stage 4. But probably 1, then 5, I think then 3, and then 2, right? Because of in my opinion, the lasers are. I always struggled more with the lasers than anything else. Anyways, so yeah, getting into another tsunami there, and I should say, you know, probably the only really complicated thing for the fight, aside from the parrying, is managing what Lune is doing in relation to Verso, right? So if Verso has essentially just activated Steeled Strike, then she's probably doing a Tsunami, whereas you know, if he's already activated it, then she's either doing like now Elemental Genesis or Stormcaller. Really, it's just her top priority is activating Elemental Genesis, excuse me. And then if Verso, and unfortunately, sometimes you just have to look at the turn order too, because like if Lune is going and then Verso is taking 2 turns in a row, like before she gets another action, then you need to be using Stormcaller, you know, on her turn, right? Because he's going to activate it, then actually deal the second part of it, right? The damage portion. So that's the only, I would argue, really tricky thing in terms of like what the characters are doing. Obviously, Verso is only ever using Steeled Strike over and over, and then Mael is using Sword Ballet if she has the AP, but this time around only Offensive Switch if she doesn't have the AP. You know, I should say for my initial kill for Sprong, my characters were quite a bit lower, well, not quite a bit, but a bit lower level, and so my speed was just a little bit different. And you know, watching that battle again, the one thing that I noticed the most was that there were certain points where Mael wouldn't have enough AP to use Sword Ballet, but she would have enough AP for a Flurry Fury, which really just told me that she was acting quite a bit faster here in this kill, right? Because then she's only has enough, or I should say, if she doesn't have enough to do the Sword Ballet, she does, yeah, like this right here, right? She's only got like 2 AP there, so obviously the offensive switch makes the most sense. Whereas in my initial kill, you know, she probably would have had like 5 or 6 AP right there, so that she could use the Flurry Fury. But I actually kind of do like the offensive switch there. It actually does add damage. For one thing, to Lune right there, if you notice, Lune was doing about 9.1k instead of the, like, you know, 7.8 or whatever she was normally doing. But also the extra lightning strikes damage as well. So I think they're doing like, I want to say 480 damage normally, whereas if the defenseless buff is on, they're doing around 600 or like 608 or something like that. So, you know, again, just doing a little bit more damage on some of those abilities with that. Now, also, this battle was faster. There's no question about that, and that, I feel like that definitely does make sense. Not only was it faster then, but of course then I had to parry less as well. Not by much though, mind you. It was, man, I want to say like 123 parries for my initial kill or something like that. And that's without counting the 3 lasers that I took. So it would have been like 126 hits versus the, I don't know, 112 or something like that for this kill. So, you know, definitely a couple, Sprong got a couple turns less, certainly. And here we're just about at the end. He's doing, yeah, so this is already Extermination Beam. So, basically, I've already got it or I knew I already had it at this point, right? He's not going to be able to do another stage 2, so I knew that this was basically it. Here's the last couple shots. I think actually Mael finishes this off. Yeah, I think it's right. There's the kill. Yep, for sure. But yeah, tough fight. Very challenging, but a lot of fun. And there's obviously the reward, which is insane, which is the cheater Pictos. It's probably the most broken Pictos in the entire game.
That was one of her first creations.
Okay, so let's talk strategy here. So I just beat this again. Taking absolutely no hits. So this was my first perfect Sprong. Very, very proud of myself for this one. Anyways, so all right. In terms of strategy here, actually I don't remember what level all of my characters were, but it's only really. I mean, it's sort of important in terms of, well, mostly because of the build, but also there's a little bit with how much agility each character has, right? So that's the only other thing that might be a little bit different if you try this a little bit lower level. But anyways, yeah, let's go into it. So Lune's got the Patirim. So this playthrough I have done by not upgrading any weapons whatsoever, aside from, basically the free upgrades that we get from battles. So honestly, and I'll be uploading another kill here on Sprong. But honestly, the one that I did with the Kralum at level 16, I think it was a good fight too. But I'm thinking based off of how many parries I've got, it's about the same. So a very leveled Kralum. Obviously, Lune will be doing a lot more damage herself, right? The difference, though, I think, is that with the Patirim, I'm keeping slow on Sprong more often. So I'm not doing as much damage, but it kind of seems like the fight is almost just as long anyway. So, anyways, I use the Patirim for this one. Obviously, it's her highest level weapon, and then on top of that, the consuming a light stain applies slow to a random enemy. So, again, because we're only fighting Sprong, the slow will always be landing on him or it. So I kind of like this one, but, like I said, Kralum, she was doing a little bit more damage, but oddly, it kind of did seem like the amount of parries was about the same anyway. So, again, I think there's just a difference between, pumping out more damage versus keeping him slowed and him getting, her doing a little bit less damage, but him getting less turns. So really the only way to really reduce the amount of, parries in terms of the Patirim would have been to just straight up upgrade it, right? And I think that would have made a lot of sense, but that said, I actually like the Kralum weapon a lot more anyway, so I think actually at the end of the day, I would recommend, going with the Kralum, upgrade it as high as you can go, and then kind of go from there. As far as the other characters' weapons, Verso's got the unupgraded Corpesso. That's just obviously from the Noir enemies on the Dark Shores. Tough fight, but if you're going to try to take Sprong on right now, you might as well go over there and do those as well. The only thing is, we've basically what I do is I go into the Forgotten Battlefield and just watch the Gradient Counters tutorial, and then come back out, right, and then go do the Noir enemies. So anyways, that is what he's got equipped, and then of course Mael's got the Jarum. Jarum is critical for this. For one thing, switching to Virtuous Stance on counterattacks, that's huge for this fight, and then on top of that, the apply 5 burns on counterattack. That's really, really critical for this strategy, because I've got everybody at a 75% crit rate, but the critical burn Lumina equipped, right, so that we're getting the extra 25% crit rate on burning targets. So again, very, very critical for the Jarum. Corpesso is just really nice. The first time I did this fight, though, I actually just did it with it was either a level 13 or a level 14 Verlesso. The raw power on this thing is just better than, the other weapons, again, aside from the Corpesso. But my first kill, I actually did it without the Corpesso, and again, like I said, Verlesso worked just fine. I think Corpesso's got a little bit of does a little bit more damage at the beginning of the fight, but once you get to rank S, it doesn't really matter, and he's capped out on damage anyway, so. All right, let's talk Pictos. So Pictos, these obviously are pretty important. I've got first offensive, perilous parry, and first strike on Lune. Again, this is really just to get to the crit rate, and then of course the extra speed is always nice. Same with Verso, 75% crit rate with Dead Energy 1, breaking shots and breaking counter. And then Mael's got confident, powerful revive and death bomb. Again, none of these effects are really doing me that much good. It's just really equipping those for the stats. So let's go over the Luminas next. So it's actually very, very cheap to do this fight. It's augmented counter, augmented first strike for Lune. That's not really that needed, right? So if you don't want to give her, you know, I guess more color of Lumina, you don't need to, but because that's just not really doing that much work, right? In the grand scheme of things, maybe a couple, like 3,000-4,000 damage on that first turn, really not going to make a big difference, right? So that's not really needed, but critical burn, that is essential for this strategy, right? Again, we need that extra 25% crit chance so that we're critting every strike. And then energizing attack, this wasn't needed at all. I actually forgot to take that back off. There was a strategy when I did one of my other kills for Sprong where I actually did a basic attack for Lune on the first turn, but with the Patirum, that's not necessary. So this actually was completely pointless, so we'll just take that off. Energizing start 1, 2, and 3, those are pretty nice, but not that needed for Lune. It's more critical for the other two members, but you know, that actually, no, I'm sorry. That is needed because she needs to use Ice Lance on her first turn, and then the following turn she needs to use Storm Collar. So actually we do need all these now that I think about it. And then first offensive, that's nice, but again, not really needed, but I'm using that for the Pictos anyway, so. And then first strike, that's pretty nice, right? We're starting out with an Ice Lance immediately. In Medias Res, very nice if you, I mean, these are basically my training wheels, right? It allows every one of the characters to basically take 3 hits for free, sort of, right? Obviously, I didn't take any this last kill, but it's very, very good to practice. You know, obviously, and especially once you get later on into the phases, obviously Sprong does a lot more attacks, and so I think that it's really, really nice. For one thing, just to learn the fight. But also, you know, if you're not looking to do it completely perfect, in Medias Res is pretty critical. And my first kill on Sprong, I actually took 3 lasers, so in Medias Res was very, very good for that initial kill. And then Perilous Parry, everybody should have this, but Lune's got the Pictos equipped, so she doesn't, you know, need to equip the Lumina instead. And then everybody should have Teamwork, right? 10% increased damage. And then the rest of the characters are essentially the same. It's just none of the first strike stuff, right? We don't need first strike stuff on Mael or Verso. So Verso's got augmented counter, breaking counter just because of the Pictos, breaking shots again because of the Pictos, critical burn, that's critical, dead energy is a Pictos, so we don't need the actual effect, and then energizing start 1, 2, 3, in Medias Res, perilous parry, and teamwork. And then Mael's got augmented counter, confident again only because of the Pictos, the effect isn't doing anything for us, and then critical burn, death bomb for the Pictos, energizing start 1, 2, 3, in Medias Res, perilous parry, and then powerful revive for the Pictos, and then teamwork as her last one. All right, so for skills, really just need Crippling Tsunami, Storm Collar, Elemental Genesis, and Ice Lance. I actually didn't use Wildfire or Elemental Trick, although those 2 abilities are good if you're using the upgraded Kralum instead, right? Which I do recommend that weapon. I think that it's as good as the Patirum, or perhaps just a little bit better. But yeah, anyways, those 2 abilities are much more needed for if you're using that weapon, right? It's a lot of it is just because what she's doing every turn is dependent on what random stains that she gets. But obviously with the Patirum, that isn't happening. So again, really only need Crippling Tsunami, Elemental Genesis, Ice Lance for the first turn, by the way, and then Storm Collar. Again, Ice Lance is for the first turn, and then basically any other turn where I'm using, or I want to slow, I'm using Crippling Tsunami instead. Yeah, it's more expensive, but you just need to do that if, let me just see here. Yeah, cause so the problem with using Ice Lance is if you've got a light stain already, it'll consume that light stain to get the earth, basically, right, to get the extra damage for Ice Lance. So that's why I've got that. Whereas Crippling Tsunami, that'll never happen, right? Because it requires a fire, earth, and lightning. You know, if you want to try to power that up, which we don't have to worry about. So that is that for Lune. All right, so for skills for Verso, it's actually literally just Steel Strike. Now, the first time that I did this, you know, well, basically every time I build, I go straight down from absolute zero. I do Marking Shot, Quick Strike, Paradigm Shift, Perfect Break, Blitz, Radiant Slash, Light Holder, and then Endbringer, and then over to Steel Strike. But honestly, you don't need to do that, right? You can go straight down. So, you know, get Marking Shot, Quick Strike, Berserk Slash, Defiant Strike, Strike Storm, and then Steel Strike, because none of these other skills are getting used. It's literally just him spamming Steel Strike every single time his turn comes around. So I think the first time I did this, I was like level 42, but yeah, I don't think you even need to be that high. I think, I don't remember the price of these two, but again, I think you can actually do this a little bit, maybe like level 40 instead or something like that. Maybe even lower than that, but that's gonna be tough though too, right? Obviously, you're gonna be doing less damage, or you're gonna have, you know, less stats, definitely less speed based on level, but. Anyways, that is Verso, and then of course Mael just needs, let's see here. I did actually use Offensive Switch quite a bit. So my first kill, I actually did use the Patirum with Lune, but I think I must have been a little bit lower level because I frequently had enough AP to use to use Flurry Fury, right? So there was turns here on when I did this last kill where I would just have enough basically for Offensive Switch, which actually is kind of nice. You're getting the defenseless condition, and that actually increases the damage on the Stormcaller strikes, which is kind of funny how that works. But and it's not by much, but you know, it does help out a little bit. And you know, otherwise she doesn't really have anything to do on that turn anyway, because I think most times she only had like 1 or 2 AP. So again, you can't use like a Flurry Fury, and I don't think the other stuff is really worth using. Certainly not Mezzo Forte, but again, she only really needs Offensive Switch and then Sword Ballet. I don't think I used any other skills for that last kill. But again, that is going to it's going to be dependent on your level and obviously Mael's speed. So let's take a look here. Actually, I have to go back into the camp, I think. Yeah, let's do that really quickly. I'll just show you where I've got everybody's stat points allocated. Alright. Okay, so keep in mind that when I started this, I had all of my attribute points spent. So anyways, Lune is full luck, right? She needs the 99 to get to the 75% crit rate. And then I had 39 points of agility. And then Verso is a little bit different. I tweaked him just a little bit for this kill. Basically, I used a recoat because normally I have his luck completely maxed out. But I actually used a recoat and dropped his luck back down to 83. And obviously that keeps him still at a 75% crit rate with these Pictos. And then I was able to pump more points into his agility. Obviously, Verso for that fight is the big damage dealer of the group. So obviously him getting more, turns more often is going to shorten the fight. So again, that's kind of what I did there for a small tweak. And yeah, so there he's got 1071 speed. And then Mael here has 99 luck, and then actually she had 51 agility. She's obviously quite a bit higher level than my other two characters, mostly because, well, I guess not that much higher level, but a little bit, just because when I do my farming in the Hidden Gestural Arena, I basically always farm with just Mael. I think actually in order to prepare for this fight too, I did it was probably 3 groups of the Noir enemies, or I should say 3 fights with the group of 2, right? So it was basically 6 total kills for those guys, and that was just to get me up to the level that I wanted to be at for this. So That I think is it. Yeah, went over skills, went over weapons. Very fun fight, very rewarding. Again, takes a lot of practice, of course. And like I said, if you're not as good at parrying, maybe, or I guess if you're struggling a little bit more with the parrying, in medias res is the answer to that, right? Or wait until you've broken the damage cap, right, and take out Sprong then, because then this fight is just completely easy. So, anyways, as always, I hope the guide was helpful, and thank you for watching.